Looks like Chick-Fil-A will not be opening any new restaurants in Uganda anytime soon. The longtime favorite company of conservatives has apparently embraced the DEI agenda. According to a heretofore unnoticed diversity, equity, and inclusion segment of Chick-fil-A's website, quote, "One of our core values at Chick-fil-A Incorporated is that we are better together. When we combine our unique backgrounds, blah, 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 with a culture of belonging, we can discover new ways to blah, 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 blah." The exact verbiage does not exactly matter. It's all pretty much just gobbledygook anyway. The disconcerting thing is not the exact wording. The disconcerting thing is that Chick-fil-A has embraced DEI at all. And now, while some conservatives are calling for a boycott of the openly religious, generally relatively conservative company, as far as I'm concerned, this story has almost nothing to do with Chick-fil-A. The Chick-fil-A DEI department doesn't tell you a ton about the chicken shop. It tells you about the depth and pervasiveness of liberal ideology throughout our entire culture. It isn't just Disney. It isn't just Target. It isn't just Anheuser-Busch. Even Chick-fil-A is subject to increasingly radical liberalism. And we will not merely buy another sandwich to fix it. The only way to fix it is by reorienting our entire political order. Even Chick-fil-A. Right now, go to puretalk.com/Knowles. We're all trying to improve the country here, aren't we? And therefore, we've got to be a little bit discerning about the partners that we choose to work with. And one company I'm very, very proud to stand behind, and a company that's very proud to stand behind us and our country, is Pure Talk. Veteran-owned with a 100% American workforce, they share our beliefs, our desires for this country. That is why Pure Talk is the official cell phone wireless partner of the Daily Wire. But that's not the only reason. Pure Talk also happens to be the most dependable 5G network in the United States. They've got a top-tier service at a fraction of the cost of those other woke companies. You know the ones I'm talking about: AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile. Those companies that don't care about you or your values. In fact, you can get unlimited talk, text, and unlimited data with a mobile hotspot for just $55 a month. You vote with how you spend your money. So stop supporting woke wireless companies that don't support you. Instead, go to puretalk.com/Knowles. You will get great coverage and save while you're doing it. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Save an additional 50% off your first month because they actually care about you. Go to puretalk.com/Knowles. Pure Talk, wireless for Americans, by Americans. Right now, go to balanceofnature.com, use promo code Knowles. Living a healthy lifestyle is not always easy, especially when you are on the go. You need simple, manageable routines to make sure you are getting the proper nutrition every single day. That's why I'm a huge fan of Balance of Nature. Balance of Nature fruits and veggies are a great way to ensure that you're getting essential nutritional ingredients every day. Their capsules are packed with 100% whole food that you can take at any time. Balance of Nature uses a cold vacuum process that preserves the natural phytonutrients in whole fruits and vegetables and encapsulates them for easy consumption. Balance of Nature sent a bunch of their products down to the studio for us to try, and these absolute jackals around here just gobbled them up. We had to claw over each other to try to get them from these hyenas. So make sure that you get your own Balance of Nature right now. Go to balanceofnature.com. Use promo code Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, for 35% off your first order as a preferred customer. That is balanceofnature.com, promo code Knowles, K-N-O-W-L-E-S, for 35% off your first preferred order. Jane Fonda says we need to imprison white men. Jane Fonda of Hanoi Jane fame, she's the lady who allowed the Vietnamese communists to sit her down on an anti-aircraft gun and make like she was shooting down American flyers and attacking American troops. She later apologized for that, but then she remained a huge anti-American lib, so the content of that apology is somewhat dubious. Jane Fonda just said, quote, "It's good for us all to realize there would be no climate crisis if there was no racism. There would be no climate crisis if there was no patriarchy. A mindset that sees everything in a hierarchical way. White men are the things that matter, and then everything else is at the bottom. That's the problem. this mindset that sees things in a hierarchical way. By the way, white men are the absolute worst. I love she's attacking this hierarchical white male way of thinking. And how does she do it? She arranges it in a hierarchy of evil people. And at the very top of the hierarchy of evilness, at the very bottom of the hierarchy of goodness, she puts the white men. Okay. She says that poor people of color, as well as people in the Southern Hemisphere, will be hit hardest by global warming. She says it's a tragedy that we have to absolutely stop. We have to arrest and jail those men. They're all men. Okay, all those white men, we've got to throw them in jail because they're pushing global warming. Maybe worth pointing out to Hanoi Jane that as far as nations go, the biggest contributor to global warming, such as it is China. China, which famously does not have a lot of white men running it. But regardless, yeah, sure, America, we're a big industrial country. We're the leader of the free world. And so there are still a good number of white men in America. And okay, that's the problem. The climate crisis would not exist if not for patriarchy. The climate crisis would not exist for racism. The climate crisis is the fault of white men. Of course it is. It has to be. And climate change, catastrophic climate change, we're just 9 years away from the end of the world, as they've been telling us for 50 years. That also requires white men to be the fault of it, because white people just equals bad. Climate change equals secular apocalypse. And so, yes, evil will bring about the end of the world. And in the Christian understanding of the apocalypse, things get really, really, really bad as sin and death and evil pervade all the world, and the prince of this world leads to all sorts of terrible things, you know, the devil, the father of lies. But then there's a happy ending. There is a happy ending here because Christ wins the war and comes down and you have the final judgment. In the secular version of this, now we just all turn to worm food. Evil, in the secular version, in the leftist version, evil just wins. And this shapes the way that we view the world. This is education. Hanoi Jane's comments here, Fatima Muhammad's comments at CUNY Law School, the dude in the dress at Disneyland, all of this stuff, the Latino white supremacy, this constitutes education a lot more than the reading, writing, and arithmetic that you'll learn in 5th grade. Education is about how we're brought up. It's about how we view the world. I was thinking about this the other day because I have friends and relatives who are a bit neurotic. And they worry a lot about death. But they never think about death. They don't really take death seriously, but they worry about dying. And I was thinking about myself, and it's easy for me to say I'm a relatively healthy guy and I'm sunshine in my life, but I think about death all the time. But I almost never worry about death. How is that? Well, I think about death all the time because I'm Christian. And so I think about, okay, have I committed a sin? Am I in a state of grace? Do I need to go to confession? Am I going to have a good death? I mean, this was something that Christians, for the vast majority of our civilization's history, they would think about this sort of thing. Am I prepared to meet my maker? Because death comes like a thief in the night. You never know if you're going to go. Okay, so you think about death a lot, but then if you prepare for death, you're not worried about death. I think, okay, I don't think I turn to worm food. I hope I don't go to hell. I think I'm preparing myself for the end of the story. Okay, good. Whereas if you ignore death, if you try to put it out of your mind, you're still going to have that nagging sense of your mortality that's part of the human condition. And so paradoxically, you're going to be much, much more worried about it. The more you try to put it out of the mind, the more you're going to be worried about it. And then all of that got me thinking, this is our real education. This is the real kind of education that guides our society. It's not just the reading, writing, and arithmetic. It's not just the facts about which wars were won by which generals. The real basis of our education is, who do we think we are? Where do we think we're going? What do we think we're made for? What do we think good is? What do we think we're all doing here together? That's the really subtle stuff of our education that's going to make or break a civilization. Where are we? What are we for? And for Jane Fonda, her understanding of evil and good and progress and politics and all of that, it is informed by things that are false and ugly and wicked. And that's going to drive a civilization crazy. Boy, that was a great clip. Make sure you ring that bell, subscribe to the Michael Knowles YouTube channel. We'll see you next time.